I create an obnoxious amount of content.
Don't do anything. Just keep watching. Keep watching my stuff. Keep being entertained by my energy. Keep being inspired. Don't do.
What's the ROI of your mother?
The way you're gonna make money online, and by the way, anywhere, is by grabbing it.
There's a lot of people that are giving advice online because people react well to it. Because they're giving advice because when they give advice, people respond to it and they say, "This is amazing," and they'll like it and they'll give them positive feedback and love. But their advice is at least a certain percent of it is just nonsense. They're just talking.
Hustle, grind. But what? Hustle what? Grind what? Grind, hustle. Stop whining. What should I do? Stop whining. Hustle, grind.
I'm kidding, Gary. Gary, I love you. I'm inspired by you every day.
Hi guys, it's Madison back. I have to stop saying that. That's not where we are anymore. We are not in a blue kitchen anymore. This is the setup for today, at least. The 4 pieces of paper in the background is supposed to say bye bye blue kitchen, but I don't know if any of you guys can read that. I'm in a swivel chair. It's gonna be really interesting filming with this. Today we are talking about the highly admired Gary Vee. Now, I'm a little scared for this one because Gary Vee has a lot of supporters, and I want to put out there really quickly before this video is not to like needlessly hate Gary Vee as much as he might like to portray any criticism as. I am not just a hater, and I'm not here to try and bring him down or anyone who supports and loves him. But I do think that there's a conversation surrounding Gary Vee and what he does that's worth having, and I'm here to have a conversation. I wish the best for Gary Vee and all of his supporters, but I'm nervous that Gary Vee might be giving children and young adults kind of the wrong ideas on a lot of different subjects. So let's talk about it. But first, before we get into the video, if you enjoy deep dives and like to analyze scams and unethical business practices going on the internet, don't forget to subscribe down below and give this video a thumbs up to boost this video. My voice cracked when I said that. A thumbs up. Anyways, let's get into it. Now, if you've never heard of Gary Vee before this video, Gary Vee, or Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary Vee's kind of his nickname, is known as this self-made millionaire who's created massive success for himself and goes on to teach others how to teach others.
Fuck. It's just so intense. Like, you know, like I'm just, the reason I just went there, I'm just like thinking, I'm like, how the hell do I get them to understand? Like, how do I get people to understand how big of a deal this is? Like, nothing is more valuable than attention. It's the only, I literally value attention equal to oxygen. I never think I'm right, ever. I have no interest in telling anybody how to do anything. Your country is not the variable of your hustle, my friend.
Do you know how obnoxiously thick my skin is?
You can punch me in the face 8,000 times. I'm here to get punched. There is no reason to do shit you hate. None. You know what I hustle about? I hustle about meeting every single person on earth. Do you know why? Because I care about people more than I care about myself.
See, I don't really know what Gary Vaynerchuk teaches, and I've watched hours and hours of Gary Vaynerchuk or Gary Vee videos, and I still don't really know what the core message is. Whether it's be happy and love what you do, don't go to college, work really hard and constantly grind, or don't listen to the haters. If you have watched on my channel my Freebot video and my Jake Paul video, you've probably noticed that I have a lot of critical things to say about Gary Vee. But a lot of people were pretty upset that in my Freebot video, I basically called Gary Vee a get-rich-quick, millionaire mindset guru, Freebot scammer. So let's read those comments to get an idea of what a lot of people have to say in defense of Gary Vee. It's always important to examine other sides. I'm just gonna roll away to get my phone real quick. Purpose of a rolly chair. As much as yes, Gary Vee is not a genius in stuff, I've never seen him selling anything. He's mostly doing motivational speaking and social media marketing. All of his content is free, right? When someone left a similar comment on a Gary Vee video, I thought that this response was really good. This guy says, "Nothing is ever free. If you don't see the product, you are the product." Never saw him promoting a get-rich-quick program or something like that. Do I think that his wine and everything he slaps his name on is overpriced? Yes. So he's not selling anything, but then he's overpricing things that he's selling. I draw a lot of inspiration from him, but never had to pay money for any piece of content. And I've heard really good things about him and how his books have actually changed how people interact with social media and stuff. As much as I totally agree with everything you said in the video, I disagree with Gary Vee being on the list. Love your videos. Yes, Gary Vee doesn't sell the very obvious get-rich-quick scam course that a lot of other people like Ty Lopez
Here in my garage.
sell. But as this commenter pointed out, he has a lot of businesses in which maybe if he built a very large audience, the awareness would be spread more. And there's nothing wrong with self-promotion. There's nothing wrong with marketing yourself, with building yourself as a brand. But when it's disguised as selfless care for others and selfless motivation, now that's a little bit shady. But I do want to say I appreciate that comment. LOLs, you're probably right about all those other gurus, but Gary Vee is the real thing. Really do your research on the people before you stamp them with the fake guru label. Gary Vee built his business to a massive success before ever giving out advice. He gives advice today because he became extremely successful first. All of his advice today is because he's sincerely trying to help others and uplift people. He's still very much business, by the way. It's during his extra time that he gives his 2 cents for young entrepreneurs who want to be as successful as him one day. Sure, he gets asked or paid to be a guest speak at events. Most successful people do. However, he doesn't host seminars if only speaking about how to be successful. Some events by his company feature a bunch of different people who actually worked hard and made something out of their lives, which is different from all these other fake gurus. If you don't know what the product is, you are the product. Looking at Gary's most recent companies that he started, VaynerX, VaynerMedia, companies that he started after his successful motivational books came out, you can see how he's directly profiting off of his following by creating events with other motivational speakers, by establishing himself as a marketing and advertising genius to sell to other companies. Even if he is not directly selling to his audience, they are a commodity in which he is able to gain further successes. Do I think this means he's a scammer? No. I think that it's definitely a smart business move. But the unfortunate thing is, as you can tell from a lot of these comments, a lot of people actually believe that Gary's sole motivation is just to help them. And I'm not sure if that's the case. He built a large brand, becoming a motivational influencer, and then built companies that develop and capitalize off of social media influence and motivational speakers. I'm not one to say what Gary Vee's intentions are, but Gary Vee has said it best himself.
So one of the reasons I think my speaking career has gone so well is I'm reverse engineering the crowd in real time.
How so?
I'm literally giving the talk
Right.
and feeding off the reactions and navigating in an improv manner on my business content.
Okay, so now if you're going to give a speech,
Yeah.
so if you're going to give one of these keynotes,
Yes.
what's your objective? Like, what are you trying to accomplish when you're doing that?
Like brand.
How do people make money on Instagram? I don't make any money. I have 1.8 million Instagram followers. I've made 0 cents.
So I would argue you do make money because you're using a chess move instead of transacting just on that platform. That is a platform where you create reach and awareness that drives towards things of this nature, and then you either sell advertising or get into business development where you have pieces of equity in businesses that you build through the attention. People sell against attention. Appreciate all of you guys. Your attention means the world to me. So either you're doing commercials or you're doing step 2, which is you're building brand, right? So one thing I've never done is I've never been paid ever for a piece of content I put out on social, which is the majority of how people get paid. But I get paid $100,000 to give a speech. And I've done that because of the attention and awareness that I've been able to build on those platforms.
Jamie, book me some speeches. I'm going to start doing speeches.
I just do have to point out something that I did talk about in my Freebot video, which is that a lot of these gurus label a lot of the stuff that they're putting out as free. I just wonder what that does to the consumer mind when you are perceiving something as free, as out of the goodness of someone's heart. It's like if I were to say every single time I started this video, hey guys, welcome back to another free video for you to watch. It's like, yeah, it might be kind of free for you, but you're still putting your time, investing your time into watching this thing. And I'm still gaining something out of it. Even if you're not directly spending money on this video, I'm still getting YouTube AdSense. I'm still being able to build a platform off of topics that I love. Even if technically it doesn't cost you anything to watch this video, it doesn't necessarily mean it's completely free. And that's what I find very interesting with a lot of people like Gary Vee, is they so often throw out the word free, but I at least wanted to put that out there for this next comment that I'm about to read. The first hour of this video, you were spot on, but you are so wrong with Gary Vee. He doesn't sell courses. He gives out free content all day long. The only thing he sells is like $10 books once every couple years. He runs a massive marketing agency, working with big brands and companies like Pepsi. He's not one of these fake scam artists like many of the others featured in this video. I did mention that Gary Vee is different from other blatant freebot scammers, but that does not mean that he is not amongst the umbrella of millionaire mindset gurus that gain even more success from creating a brand around advice that they give. Would his companies that he's created be as successful as they are or as notorious if it wasn't for the brand that he built of himself? Do I think that Gary Vee is a complete and total scammer? Not necessarily, but I do think that he is massively manipulating an audience into thinking that he's way more selfless than he is, and it's concerning to me how well it works. Now, I definitely want to say these comments are 100% right. Gary Vee is not the normal get-rich-quick guru scammer. He's much smarter than that. These get-rich-quick gurus use the word free to rope people in and believe that there's some sort of generous teacher of sorts, when really the main thing that they're after is to build a following and then profit from this following that perceives them as some sort of selfless guru. I can't help but read these comments and feel that Gary Vee is kind of doing the same thing, except for he's doing it successfully. Now, I want to say something at the very beginning of this video that my dad told me when I was 5. Nothing is ever free. Whether you're giving your time, your money, your devotion, or word of mouth promotion, nothing is ever free. Those who are great at marketing and even better at advertising know the value of a sales funnel, free promotion, word of mouth marketing, and the value of time. And most importantly, if they're a multimillionaire, They usually understand the value of their own time and use it in very calculated ways. It's probably the skeptic in me, but even philanthropy by these larger influencers or faces or public figures seems like a tactical way to gain attention and followers and build a brand. In fact, Tiffany Ferg did an amazing video on that entire subject, which definitely fits into this whole topic. So the second I see the word free, all I can think of is this giant red flag saying this person is disguising personal interest as philanthropic interest, because nothing is ever free. So the absolute seriousness that others have when they say Gary is legit, he does everything for free to help you and to help me, kind of scares me. The fact that most people can see right through other get-rich-quick gurus, but Gary Vee seems to be this wonderful, incredible exception to the rule, kind of scares me. Why are people so convinced that Gary Vee is the only motivational guru and the only one with the right intentions? And is there something that I'm not understanding? Before we can understand Gary Vee, I do think it's really important to understand his audience and his supporters. Gary Vee undoubtedly has an extremely intense and loyal following who believe him to be an absolute genius, enlightening us with pure knowledge. But his advice be like...
And I think the way people look at the world right now, because it's such an incredible time, is actually the quickest tell to who they are. If you think it sucks or it's bad, you have losing pessimistic DNA. And if you think it's awesome and phenomenal, you have optimistic winning DNA.
That is pessimistic, saying that if you have pessimistic DNA, you're basically going to be pessimistic for the rest of your life. Because he's a motivational speaker, you have to listen to sometimes of what he's actually saying, because sometimes he just trats complete air.
To me, everything's about breathing, right? Like, to me, everything is about, like, take full ownership for everything, and then everything gets easy, because then you're in control.
Regardless, he's obviously giving his audience something that they really need to hear to make them promote him, defend him, support him, and listen to him. So what is Gary Vee giving that causes this intense level of admiration and trust? The first thing is authority. When you go onto Gary Vee's website, the very first thing that he has is his story. The reason why is because Gary Vee knows that in order to gain someone's trust, you have to come from a place of authority. A sort of, see, I know what I'm talking about kind of thing. So let's read Gary Vee's story to see how much he puts himself in a position of authority. Yeah. Gary is a highly sought after public speaker, a 5-time New York Times best-selling author, as well as a prolific angel investor with early investments in companies such as Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Venmo, and Uber. Gary is currently the subject of Daily Vee, an online documentary series highlighting what it's like to be a CEO and public figure in today's digital world.
People's ability, yes, but people's ability to say no. Right?
Yeah.
Like, cause that's actually life. Like like 0 people exist. If you know, you can hear your brother's points of view, you can hear your mom's points of view, you can hear your roommate's points of view, you can hear my point of view, but like when you're actually not listening, you're not listening. Mm-hmm. I think everybody's trying to like control shit that you can't control. Yeah. I'm about to change open door policy and force time with everybody because it's my job. Your job is not for
as well as the host of the Gary Vee Audio Experience, a top 100 global podcast, and host of #AskGaryVee, a business and advice Q&A show, which can be found on both YouTube and Facebook.
How much time did you have? How much time did you have for yourself on Saturday and Sunday that was not working every minute? Tell me the truth.
A lot.
I know. So that's the punchline, right? Now imagine this.
Yeah.
When I tell you this. You spent more downtime on not your career this weekend than I did in my entire 20s combined.
Oh, shit. Okay. Okay, so in less than 8 years, when I'm a millionaire by 25, I'll come shake your hand.
I promise you that statement itself made me 100% guarantee that you won't.
So there's no doubt that Gary Vee is trying to build a brand off of his accomplishments. It's just what it is. There are many, many serial entrepreneurs or successful people who don't necessarily create a website that explains all of their success and put themselves out there for millions to see, to build an audience of millions. But Gary, on the other hand, is very intentionally trying to build a following, trying to get millions of people to watch his content. But I do think that Gary Vee is much smarter than other get-rich-quick gurus who oversell their authority with material items. Gary doesn't sell his authority with all of these material items. He uses no materialistic opulence imagery that would make him seem unapproachable. No, he's just a regular guy like you and me. But he gained all of this success and respect, and he's gonna help you do it too. Prove your parents wrong.
Do you want to love your mom or do you want to hate your mom?
I'll always love my mom.
Do you want to love your mom or do you want to hate your mom?
Love my mom.
Good. You doing what she wants you to do is the easiest way for you to hate your mom, not love your mom.
Say no to the status quo. Say no to all the haters and all of the negativity. He's gonna help you do it, and he's gonna motivate you through that because he is just like you. So Gary Vaynerchuk's story goes on to talk more about his early life, how he's considers himself a purebred entrepreneur, and how he rose to success. And to summarize it, Gary Vee talks about how growing up he had all of these different business ventures, and somehow many of them, even when he was super young, turned out pretty successful, like selling baseball cards. But his real success definitely did not hit until he inherited his family's wine business, which was already a $3 million company. And undoubtedly, he was able to grow this business even further into a $60 million business. That's incredible. That's a great accomplishment. There's no denying that. Though I will say, being able to inherit a successful, or at least fairly successful, pretty successful, 3 million is a lot for many people, business is very, very different than coming from nothing. And those two situations require very different scenarios, very different approaches. Also, whenever someone feels the need to overstate their success to people or over-explain it, it always reminds me of Andy from The Office and how he needed to constantly state that he went to Cornell to either compensate for his insecurities or simply because he had this compulsory need for a pat on the back. I'm not saying it's inherently wrong to state your success. I mean, if you got it, why not flaunt it? But I do wonder if overstating such success is a way to create a shield of authority of some sort, or like a rose-colored shade around someone. Everything that they say is warped under this identity of a highly successful person, and now doesn't sound as much like your drunk middle-aged aunt at a family reunion trying to give you very generic advice about your life. Do what makes you happy. Don't worry about your parents.
Negativity from a human is literally probably the worst thing another human can do to a human. And normally it's your mom. That means you value their opinion. Have the conversation with the person that's holding you back. The reason most people who are listening right now are not doing that thing is they're worried about the opinion of somebody, usually their mother, usually their father. And the reality is that your spouse may be the person holding you back, and you have to have that conversation.
Cut him off.
Regardless, because Gary Vee created this sense of authority around him, that he was a successful person, all of a sudden, his advice means a little bit more. He's able to fill up a stadium for seminars. He's able to sell out books. He's able to build more awareness about these other brands that he's creating, as well as his own brand. And there is a lot of power and value in that. And I really wonder if all of this wonderful, unique advice that Gary Vee gives...
3 words.
3 words.
You're gonna die. Yeah, that's inspiration.
Do something about it.
Do something about it.
Fucking love you.
I love you too. Take care.
Would be as valuable to people if it wasn't for his experience and his sense of authority. So, good old Gary has established himself as a sense of authority. But how has he become so admired by his audience? By disguising self-promotion as an act of selfless giving.
You know, there is no funnel. It's a big deal. I think that's why I'm winning. Unlike almost every other business, whether tactical or motivational. And so I'm giving so purely that I think subconsciously people understand that. And I think I'm entertaining. For me, I want to be the entrepreneur that gave back to the most entrepreneurs.
I think this is best summed up in the interview done with Gary Vee by Campaign US, in which it says, all of this Gary Vee stuff, the vlogs, the books, the motivational talks, Vaynerchuk sees it as an act of philanthropy. The quote from him says, you know, I think some of this stuff where I'm selfless and sharing my thoughts and ideas and trying to help, and all the time I spend on interacting with those people versus putting them into my own selfish behaviors, that's my way of giving back. The way he worded that entire sentence is extremely fascinating. But once again, it's just not true that he's getting absolutely nothing out of building this guru brand. It's just not true. The best person to sell to is the person who doesn't know that they're being sold to. Nothing's free, dude. If you don't see the product, you are the product. And I can't help but wonder if all of these people who truly believe that they're being just helped by Gary and not sold to are actually secretly being sold to. Nevertheless, this whole concept of selfless giving, it causes this level of admiration from his audience. They begin to care more and more about Gary Vee because he's giving so much to them. But undoubtedly, Gary Vee definitely gives his audience something really, really powerful. Hope.
Dad is an alcoholic, my mom's a gambler. I really want to get into college, right?
Why?
To get a job so I can have a foundation.
First of all, you're gonna collect debt. And unless you go to a top 5% school, the jobs that are available to you on the back end of that are garbage. I think the biggest thing that a kid with this much hard luck needs to think about is, can you attach yourself to a good situation where you pay your dues to build a foundation?
Hope that they can reach success. Hope that Gary's advice will get them there. We all need motivation every now and again, and if listening to a Gary Vee live stream or watching a video of his for free helps you stay motivated and keep going, that's great, that's wonderful, there's nothing wrong with that. The only thing that worries me is whether or not Gary Vee is giving out false hope or very simple solutions to very complex problems. And I also worry if maybe his audience is a little bit too young to understand the nuance between taking advice with a grain of salt. So let's examine Gary Vee's TikToks to see what it is exactly he's preaching. Before watching Gary Vee's TikToks, I want to point out the phrase toxic positivity. So let's look at what toxic positivity is. The phrase toxic positivity is the culture of portraying yourself as being happy no matter what. You're basically switched off to anything which might be viewed as negative. It's also the idea of encouraging people to always see the bright side and not open up about anything bad.
Negativity, no matter where it comes from, is always wrong. Always. I promise you, if you focus, go find positive, real shit, because smoking weed doesn't mean shit. Negative parents doesn't mean shit. Just focus It's all, look for the positivity. I promise you it's fucking there.
Thank you. Thank you, boss.
Take care, bro. Negativity from a human is literally probably the worst thing another human can do to a human. And normally it's your mom.
Gary also creates most of his content and motivational topics around children or teens or young adults and dealing with parents, going to college, whether or not they should go. He's obviously targeting a young audience, a very young audience. Is his advice as valuable as he's making it seem, or are the people who are watching it just young enough to not fully understand the advice?
Hey Gary, how do I deal with my parents during quarantine?
With compassion, love, respect, and understanding while not putting yourself in a shit spot. TikTok, listen to me. You deal with your parents by understanding one day they're gonna be gone. That if they didn't have sex at the right time, you wouldn't live. And that they've got their own ideologies and usually fear in how they want you to live your life. Go with love, but if they're abusive and super negative, by going somewhere else to quarantine. Love, or if it's evil, out.
Well, I do think a lot of that advice was really harmless, dealing with your parents in quarantine and all of that. I do want to just know that, like, when you're a teen, things can be a lot more complicated than love or evil. And a lot of people, when they are teens, do think at different points that their parents are evil. We've all felt that way. I just don't know if it's healthy to boil down very complex teen problems into simple solutions.
The second you don't give a fuck about what they think is the second you don't have to do that, is the second you find the process you like, and then miraculously 10 years later you do have the success.
And it's all mindset.
100%. You practice. Dude, that's why everyone's impatient, because they want the success, the shit to show people that they won.
About competitiveness and insecurity, do you think there's a fine line between those two things?
Yes, I do.
And how do you think that's helped you?
I think it's helped me the most. If you are lucky enough to have self-esteem slightly higher than insecurity, and you layer competitiveness above it, you now have the ingredients for success. I think if insecurity is greater than self-esteem, you're fucking dead.
Yeah.
Nothing is as simple as Gary makes it out to be in these really short videos, yet it seems like people are really listening to these videos and actually taking in this advice.
Like, I was a very happy kid, but I hated school. I'm gonna show all of you. I'm gonna be the biggest, best person on earth.
Why is he trying so hard to market to children? The editing, the zoom-ins, the, hey kids, school isn't always that great. Parents are sometimes mean. Do what makes you happy. Like, these are really basic advice, but they're all kind of from a child or a young person's perspective. Why is he targeting kids? You could say it's from a very authentic perspective of, like, I want to influence the youth, I want to help them, but to so aggressively target them. Why? Gary Vee, even in his own advice, often contradicts himself.
Negativity, no matter where it comes from, is always wrong. Always.
Okay, so in less than 8 years, when I'm a millionaire by 25, I'll come shake your hand.
I promise you that statement itself made me 100% guarantee that you won't. I'm here to, like, bring love, not hate.
Really?
I hate Michael Jordan with my entire heart.
Whoa.
I hate when people argue with me on this. You can separate respecting somebody's skill set and thinking they're a piece of fucking shit.
He's like, be patient, but also work hard and hustle as much as you can all the time, 24/7, to get those results. He talks about hate and negativity so much and how bad any sort of negativity is. Yet even to his own audience members, he will say things that are kind of negative. So does he mean that negativity is bad only when it's critical of him and the advice that he's giving? Overall, as you can see, none of it just makes any sense. I cannot find any few core messages besides don't care what other people think and college isn't always necessary. At the end of the day, I'd much rather listen to a wine mom telling me to live, laugh, love than to Gary Vee telling me how to get success, yet that success doesn't matter and just be happy. Overall, Gary Vee is V basic. But I think Gary Vee highlights the core beliefs of the American dream in some really dangerous ways. He acts self-made even though he technically started out with a $3 million business. He acts as if his success is repeatable, as if timing, market conditions, luck, and even constant and consistent luck in the investments that you make even after your initial success aren't all very important aspects of success, much of which cannot be replicated or easily recreated. He tries to boil everything down into simple formulas, even simple formulas that constantly contradict one another and tell you to ignore anything bad in pursuit of the positivity. And that can lead many people down a very bad path, especially people who are young and impressionable and may not understand that not all advice can apply to their specific situation. Besides toxic positivity, there's another aspect of Gary Vee's teachings that are extremely toxic. This idea that if you just put your head down and work, all of the success will come to you. That ultimately working harder than anybody else is the key to success.
Hustle is putting it all on the line. Period. Simple. You don't like the way it sounds? Fuck it, because it's the truth, because you're just not working. Hustle is a word to so many people, even to some of my hardcore fans. I'm sorry to call you out, but I follow you like you follow me, and people talk about the hustle, but then you're talking about your 6 o'clock, happy hour drink, or your video game, or this and that. And here we are in the holidays, and everybody's going to their holiday party, and I've got 1 meeting coming up right now, 2 meetings after that, reviewing all my email, and so while everybody's drinking some goddamn eggnog, I continue the hustle. And so you can say it, or you can do it, but I highly recommend you do both. Stop crying and just keep hustling. Hustle is the most important word ever.
What are you doing tonight?
Doing a biz dev meeting.
Really?
Yeah.
A business development meeting tonight at after 10 p.m.
Yep.
That's hilarious.
I normally...
And you live in New York, so this is 1 a.m. for you.
Yep. Taylor, I gave up my entire 20s. All of them. Imagine not doing anything fun or going anywhere for the next 8 years, including Saturday and Sunday. That's what I did from 22 to 30. Every day I spent 15 hours a day in a liquor store, thought about a liquor store. Now imagine this, when I tell you this. You spent more downtime on not your career this weekend than I did in my entire 20s combined.
Once again, that's kind of basic advice. But also, what happens when people take this advice too seriously? That all you need for success is to work hard. There's a video by someone named Casey Vander that talks about why he stopped watching Gary Vee, so let's watch that.
Why I hate Gary Vaynerchuk. Okay, so let me give you some background about me. One of the reasons why I started fitness coaching and why I started my fitness products and my coaching business in the first place was because of Gary Vee. Okay, so I watched a video when I was about 20, 21 years old, and the video was titled 6 Minutes for 60 Years of Your Life. For essentially 2 years after that, I've been putting out content daily. I've been vlogging every day. I've been blogging every day. I've been podcasting every single day.
You should put out unlimited pieces of content.
And I think Gary Vee is probably one of the worst mentors to follow possibly out there. When you see him talk, when you hear him talk, when you watch a Gary Vee video, at the end of it, you're left with this feeling of hope. When I was hustling, like Gary Vee likes to call it, all it did was left me tired. Okay, hustling only gets you so far. So what does Gary Vee consider hustling? He thinks you should work 18 hours a day, maybe 20 hours a day if you can. Post on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook about your business all day, and then hopefully an audience finds you, and hopefully you're going to get business growth out of that. The metrics and the cold hard facts that it takes to grow a business, he doesn't talk about. He doesn't talk about setting up the lead gen software. He doesn't talk about actually how to hire, how to manage, how to actually scale your business, how to have a product that's really, really good. Okay, he doesn't talk about any of that.
I think that's a really important aspect of this. If Gary Vee were to just talk about business and advertising and growing a business and all of those really key points and things that maybe he actually learned from his business. But the thing is, that's not interesting and it's not engaging. And unfortunately, I don't think that a lot of young people want to listen to that as much as they want to listen to, you can do it, your parents don't know what they're talking about, you don't need to go to college, do what makes you happy. And that's the saddest part about all of this, is Gary Vee and the way that he gives out his advice is extremely, extremely vague. I haven't talked about this much, but I did start a tech startup when I was 19 years old. Made a lot of mistakes, but also I learned that there's so much complexity when it comes to targeting an audience, building an audience, and being able to grow that. It's so intense. That's not really an aspect that Gary Vee goes into in great detail. So he gives people all this hope and motivation that they can do it enough to start a venture, but when it comes to actually knowing what to do with it, once you've started it, everything is vague and blurry and really has no actual meaning. Now, that wouldn't be a big issue if it wasn't the way that Gary Vee frames his advice from this position of authority, teaching you everything you need to know, inspiring you to do great things, yet not giving you any sort of details as to how to make those great things happen. It's a dangerous thing for young people to be taught this inspiration and put your head down and work hard, and you're just working yourself into the ground.
Do you have any regrets in your life as a teenager?
I was so committed to my business at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And I mean so committed. The Saturday morning, I either went to my dad's liquor store to work or I did a baseball card show. I wouldn't call it a regret, but in hindsight, 92% of that time on working, that number could have been maybe 75. Like, I probably should have went to a couple of more parties.
Burnout is a very real and very debilitating issue. I'm sure a lot of people watching this have experienced burnout. I experienced burnout a year ago and it nearly destroyed me, my hope, my self-esteem, and my self-image. When you create this mentality of push, work harder and harder, it creates a toxic work ethic. Sometimes we all need a break to dive into creative thinking or critical thinking. Think about what we're doing, analyze it, evaluate. Just doing is not always good. Trust me. I went from a startup where I was just doing constantly, and I crashed and burned. The startup crashed and burned, and it didn't even really ever get off the ground. Toxic work ethic also tells you to ignore glaring warning signs of failure, because if you just keep working hard, you're gonna get through that. Or this is what makes you happy, keep doing it, ignore the haters. Of course, intuition's important. Going after what you want is important. Going after your dreams is important. But that doesn't mean throwing all sorts of critical thinking or constructive or valid criticism completely out the window. But the thing is, you cannot have positivity without understanding the other side, true positivity. If you're only looking to the bright side, if you're only looking to the positive things, is that a true positive outlook, or is that just straight up delusion? And sometimes, regardless, you just fail. The timing in the market isn't right. You're unable to find a core audience. There's so many variables in a successful business that are so hard to control. And there's actually really no way of controlling every aspect of a business. Failing is an important part of life, and you can learn from your failures, but that doesn't mean you should actively ignore warning signs or ignore any sort of critical thought because it could be perceived as negative in the face of working hard and hustling. So overall, building a brand is a business. It's a business. Building a following is a business. There's something to gain from an audience who's very devoted and interested in you and what you have to say. There always is, whether it's AdSense, whether it's a following that you can translate into other sales, like book sales, which might be little, but they're definitely not nothing, might be more awareness for a brand that you're building. It might be just a personal validation and a personal pat on the back that you are someone of importance or value that has something valuable to offer to the world. Social media has become a business. And the reason why a multimillionaire is focusing so hard on building an audience of loyal young followers is not for nothing. And overall, if Gary Vee is giving dangerous advice, toxic advice, to build a following under the guise of a fake philanthropic brand, well, Gary Vee can Gary leave.